Okay, now we are starting out here with a recap of the week. Today is February 1st, 2026. Starting with the market profile for the ES, we are in a 2-day balance with a clear prominent POC at 6,960. Zooming out, you can see that the all-time high was set in the RTH session, and the auction there was complete. In theory, if that were to indicate the top, not saying that it does, but it would be a fair place to have done so. On weakness and moving lower, targeting 6,863 would be expected. Looking back even further, the market has been in balance essentially for the entire month of January. Looking at the SPX profile, you can see right here around 6,935 to 40 is a prominent point of control, and downside target of 6,830 on weakness. If we go outside of the January balance area, then 6,785 would likely be a large gamma node, and below that, 6,740. I would some positive market maker gamma at that level, which would be both an attractant and bounce point. Looking out further, on more decisive weakness, 6,700 and ultimately 6,610 would be SPX downside targets that I believe are possible to see. Structures targeting those with butterflies or put verticals could be interesting. Moving on to GC and gold, we had a nice short on this pre-market Friday, seeing possible downside targets. Now with the large value area, there is a lot of room to bounce around in, with POC at 4,916. We only dipped into this gap, but I believe it makes sense that we could ultimately land in this prior balance area, around 4,600 to 4,625. For GLD, the POC is at 449.25 from Friday, and further weakness could target 425. I'd like to highlight an interesting relationship going back into last year. Some, not all, of the semis have been trading in lockstep with gold. If these moves are levered similar to gold, I believe that some semis could have a sizable drawdown. Here are several heavy players that you can see that appear similar in trajectory to gold, including Micron, Sandisk, ASML, Lam Research. Some are not correlated, but you can see AMAT and ADI also with similar moves. I would add Seagate and WDC as well to the list of possible corrective names. Looking at tickers as a ratio, here you can see Micron over gold approaching near 1. Sandisk over GLD even more stretched, with a very high potential for significant correction. As for earnings next week, here are a few notables. Palantir is breaking down, but this is often a frustrating place for shorts, and seeing it hug post-earnings 158 to 160 would not be surprising. PayPal is interesting, another extremely weak name, but in another frustrating pattern. These broad, long bases, which are unable to break lower, often have a reflexive snapback rally, and targeting as high as 67 would not be surprising. AMD is a strong and successful name and already has pulled back, but is in a broad range. I believe longer term this continues to break higher with a long-term target of 320. Google is in beast mode and shows no sign of weakness. I see any dips here being bought. Overall, looks sideways to higher at this time. Amazon similarly is extremely strong and in a clean uptrend. Any pullbacks here likely would be supported, but this and Google have the cleanest upward trajectories, and would not be surprised to see 260. Finally, Bloom Energy is set to report this week, and this name has been on a tear. It's looked above its recent range and could need more time to chop around in this range, although seeing this name higher and ultimately at 200 is my expectation. That's all for the video. Thank you for watching and best of luck to you.